used to watch the X-Files really religiously. It was on Friday night, and I used to wait all week for the episode, and then I would just absolutely love it. Now, I watched it pretty much every season, and I now think Canada is the giant episode of the X-Files. There's so many conspiracy theories and the government actively trying to cover up a lot of it. And I'm seeing a couple Scullys and Mulders popping up all over the place trying to sound the alarm bell. But there's very few of those ones, just like in the X-Files. And the government does seem to be covering up. So in the X-Files are covering up alien stuff, extraterrestrial technology and invasions and things like that. But in Canada, it's more about covering up ideologies. We don't want to say what is happening, and we hope people won't notice. I'm going to give you today a series of examples of things that have happened that when you put all of them together, it does start to look like we have a problem in Canada. This problem wasn't there before. I've been here my whole life. This wasn't here before. But when you put that in the general context of the bigger context of the world, you can see that we have similar examples happening in Europe, Western Europe, which is having very, very big problems and with a certain ideology that is out there. And I believe that this is now in Canada, but the government is actively covering it up. So here we go. Let's start. I'm just going to go through them, but all of these elements, all of these events I'm going to talk to you about today are going to be in the description, and you can read all of them if you want. But I've resumed them. Resumed? Is that a word in English? I think so. Yeah. Anyways, I'm making a short version for you here. So there we go. I'm going to start with the Mississauga mall explosion. So on February 11th, 2018, there was an explosion. On the day that it happened, the media covered it. They covered it as an explosion, but nothing else since then. But when I tell you the second event here, you'll see how there could be a cover-up on that one. The Mississauga restaurant that was bombed a few weeks ago, the media also covered that as an explosion. Now, the only difference is that this one, we actually have two people caught on camera walking into the restaurant, placing the bomb and running away while it detonates. So when you have it on camera, but yet the media calls that an explosion, it really does make me wonder about the mall, if that was an explosion or a bombing. And that, coupled up with the fact that we don't even have an update on this supposed explosion at the mall, indicates to me that they don't want us to know. How many different types of explosions can there be? It can't be that hard to figure out for forensics. So the fact that they have still not come back with an update, to me, indicates that there could be a bigger cover-up. Now, we had some attempted beheadings right in our streets here in Ontario. This one was in Scarborough. It was so shocking that I made an entirely different video just about that subject, and I really recommend you watch that video. It goes into more detail about it. But in broad daylight now, we have people attempting to behead other people. I mean, this is not the Canada that we used to have. But somehow the police and the government go scratching their heads. We have no idea. We have no idea who did it, why they did it, and they always ask for the help from the public. Why they constantly need help from the public is beyond me with all the cameras that we have everywhere. I don't know. It almost feels like general incompetence or massive cover-up. I can only see those two explanations. So there was also the Toronto van attack. So that one was blamed on incel, involuntary celibacy, I believe that is the word. Anyways, I'd never heard of that until then, and I'm thinking, wow, just blame it on some really crazy reason because the guy couldn't get a date. He decides to get a van and mow down people in downtown Toronto. To me, the fact that somebody would choose to use an ISIS-approved method of jihad because he's an incel. Like, I would have thought incel, if you're going to be like that, you're just going to go do a mass shooting, right? I don't know if this guy just can get a hand on a gun. But I think that we should question if this had something to do with Islam. And I think it might have. So anyways, there was another bomb threat in Mississauga. 2 guys were in a restaurant and one uttered a bomb threat and they both got kicked out. But the police were called. And again, we don't know why they uttered bomb threats. We don't know. We know who they were, but we don't know why. It's always, we don't know why. And let me see what else I have here. Oh yes, the beaches. I don't know if you guys have heard about this one, but this one is actually already declared by Islam that it's them doing this. But what they've done is they first sent a letter threatening to make the beaches really dangerous, so either poisoning them or making it really dangerous. And now they have actually carried out on that, because they've started people have started finding in beaches all the way from Toronto to Northern Ontario. They found things like nails and broken glass and needles that are specifically and willfully placed in the beaches. So a couple different beaches have now reported that they found it. I think more beaches are going to have that. So guys, if you go out to the beach this summer, please be careful. I think that there is more than what we know on that. And when you look at all of that together and you realize that the Toronto shootings have gone up 55% since 2017 at this time, that is a huge jump, huge jump. So this source is the Ontario Police website, also in the links below. Very worrisome that we have this happening in Canada. Now, I'm going to state a fact here. I'm not automatically causing a correlation. I'm not blaming anybody, but this is just a fact. A lot of the non-vetted illegal immigrants are coming to Ontario, and they are specifically going to the Toronto area. So we have this spike in illegal immigration on one hand, and we have a lot of the illegal immigrants now landing in Toronto, and at the same time is a high volume of crime that we didn't see before. Beheadings, bombings, knife attacks, and shootings. So we have to wonder what is going on. Now, you think I do all these videos just to sound the alarm, but I also have solutions. I mean, who am I, right, to come up with a solution? But who else is coming up with a solution? There's no other. I don't see the government doing anything about this. So here's a solution for all of this. I think we should temporarily close our borders and say absolutely nobody comes into Canada. And we are going to spend the next few months cleaning up our own house. So we are going to deal with this knife crimes. We're going to deal with the bombings that we're having. We are going to deal with all the issues that we have, and we're going to stop putting our resources on by having people help illegal immigrants over the border. That's what we should do. We have to look at what is happening in Canada. If all of these elements, all that have an Islamic precedent, every single one of them, the beheadings, the bombings, the van attacks, these are all things that have Islamic precedents. And we need to figure out if in Canada, this is what we're dealing with. And the only way we can do that is to stop wasting our time trying to help people coming in illegally and then giving all our money to them. But now shut that down and deal with what we have here. I don't know if the politicians will ever admit to this. It's a big conspiracy again. They don't want us to know. They don't want us to think about it. They want us to go back about our daily lives as if nothing happened. And the media is not updating us on anything. Any of these stories that I've just mentioned, none of them have an update. So it smells a lot of cover-up. It smells of conspiracy. It smells of the betrayal of our own government against us. And we really have to wake up. We are running out of time. We are in a point now where in Canada, which used to be one of the safest countries in the world, we cannot go anywhere without worrying about being attacked by either a homemade bomb or a knife or a gun. And in fact, I don't have this on my list because when I was working on this list, which was last week. This thing happened in between, but I'm going to throw it in there too. It is the a Ribfest shooting. So we have Ribfest in Ontario. We love that stuff. I don't know if any other provinces do this, but we have a lot of, I'm guessing places like Texas would do it. So anyways, there was a guy who went and he shot 4 people at a Ribfest. And that does not surprise me. I was with my husband at a Ribfest 2 years ago, and I said to him, you know what, babe? This would be a prime target for any ISIS member, any extreme Muslim out there, because they're serving both pork and beer, and the women don't necessarily dress in the full burqa. So women do have bikinis, and because it's often held in parks and it's held in the summer where it's super hot. So anyways, there we go. We're at the point now in Canada where we need to worry every time we go somewhere. So guys, stay vigilant out there. If you go to events and you see these cinder blocks placed out there, pay attention and remind yourself that the police might have had a tip or a threat that something's going to happen at that event, and that's why they're putting cinder blocks up. Watch for suspicious people in crowds, people with blank faces, like who look like they could just turn. I've heard that description a lot from people who say they've been victims of knife attacks. Or if you look, if you want to see a documentary on how terrorists are doing this right now, you can look. It's on Netflix right now. It's about the Paris attacks on November 13th, 2015, I believe. And the survivors have all described the terrorists as walking in with a blank look on their face, very calm, and then they just shoot up the place. So very, very bone chilling. Be vigilant, be very careful. Look for exits when you're in these large crowds, because I would not be surprised if we are going to go through a couple of these attacks during the summer. So stay safe out there, guys. Speak up against this. One last thing before I go. If you see something or there's something that you want to talk about, but you're in a position where you can't, I'm happy to do that. Send me a note. I won't mention people's names or anything like that, but I will report on the events. And because I think Canada needs to know at this point, and I think the media is not reporting on a lot of it. So if you hear about something or you know, I'm at that point now where I'm more afraid of what's going to happen if we don't talk than I'm afraid of actually losing my life now. At this point, I'm almost like Tommy said it best. Tommy Robinson said it best. He said, yeah, he might die, but it's better than not speaking up at all at this point. And I'm kind of at that point in my life too, because I look at my kids and they have to live in this world. I'm going to die eventually and they have to live in this world. So I refuse to pass down a world that is subpar to what I grew up in. So if you see anything, if you hear any, just let me know. I'm more than happy to talk about it. And I am at that point where I'm crazy enough to just go out there and ignore M103 and just in a respectful way try to wake up Canadians. So again, I'm going to reiterate in this video, I don't advocate violence. I don't want us to go out there and punch people. I don't want to attack Muslims. I don't want to start insulting Muslims in Canada, but I do want us to wake up to the fact that Islam is an ideology that is very dominant and is knocking at our door and is trying to take over. So there we go. That's it for me, guys. See you guys later.